Hey guys, tonight we're slowing things down, because your health deserves your full attention. Whether you've been chasing better habits for a while or you're just now whispering to yourself, I think it's time to take care of me, you're in the right place. Imagine waking up feeling clear-headed, energized, not scrambling for your phone or running on caffeine fumes, but genuinely ready for the day. Yeah, it's not magic. It's not hustle. It's a habit. And habits, well, they take time. No pressure, no perfection, just small shifts, patiently repeated. And the truth is, it's easier to build a better life when you're not rushing to do it. So before we begin, if you find comfort in these slow, cozy corners of the internet, feel free to like the video and subscribe. No hard sell, just a gentle invitation. And while you're here, drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from, maybe even what time your day is winding down. Now go ahead, dim the lights, pull up a soft blanket, let that fan hum in the background. And let's breathe into tonight's journey together. You tell yourself you'll rest once everything's done. But everything is never really done, is it? There's always another task blinking on your to-do list, another notification tugging at your attention, another internal monologue whispering, "You didn't do enough today." You sit down to pause, but instead of relaxing, you scan for the next thing to fix or finish. You're so used to running that stillness feels wrong. But what if that feeling isn't because you're lazy, but because your body's forgotten what peace feels like? Your nervous system's been playing defense all day, dodging stress, managing decisions, pushing through discomfort. And even when the workday ends, your brain stays online. Planning, calculating, overthinking. You don't step out of stress mode, you just bring it into your downtime. There's a reason this feels so familiar. You were raised in a culture that praises doing and quietly shames being. Productivity isn't just a goal, it's an identity. You're told to earn your rest, like it's a dessert at the end of a meal. But rest isn't a reward. It's a biological need. When you ignore it, the signs start stacking up. Your focus slips. You snap at little things. Your skin flares, your digestion rebels, your sleep gets choppy. Your body keeps the score, and it will settle the balance, one way or another. Studies have shown that chronic stress, even the low-key, daily kind you barely notice, can raise cortisol, interfere with memory, and disrupt immune function. And yet, you keep pushing. You say, "I'm just tired," and keep going. But being tired all the time isn't normal, it's a message. A signal. Still, even when your body begs for rest, your brain chimes in with guilt. And here's the tricky part, guilt feels productive. It gives you a weird illusion of control. Like if you worry about resting too much, maybe you're still a good person. Still trying. Still chasing. Experts still argue whether our modern guilt around rest is hardwired or socially conditioned. Some believe we evolved to stay hypervigilant, always scanning for danger, while others argue that the real problem is capitalism's obsession with output. Either way, your brain now treats stillness as suspicious, unproductive, even dangerous. But here's the truth. Real rest doesn't set you back. It builds you up. Think of it like this, you're a battery, not a machine. Machines break down. Batteries. They recharge. And that recharge doesn't have to look dramatic. It can be simple. Subtle. Like making a cup of tea slowly instead of multitasking it between emails. Like lying on the floor for 5 minutes, staring at the ceiling, and letting your thoughts drift without judgment. Like letting silence fill a room without trying to fill it with productivity. There's even a word for this in Dutch, niksen. It literally means to do nothing but not out of laziness. Out of choice. Intention. Space. You probably don't even realize how tightly wound your days have become. How even your breaks come with guilt. How watching a show feels fine if you're folding laundry at the same time. How you've started justifying rest with phrases like, "I've been so busy, I deserve this." But you don't have to earn the right to breathe. Try this instead. The next time you feel exhausted, don't reach for a sugary snack or your phone or another task. Try stepping outside for just 1 minute. Feel the air on your skin. Notice the quiet. Let your shoulders drop. Even if it's awkward. Even if your brain wants to fight it. You'll feel the difference, even if you don't fully understand it yet. Like a fog lifting slowly. Like water soaking into dry soil. Your body knows what to do, it just needs you to get out of its way. And remember, rest isn't just sleep. It's any moment where your system feels safe enough to stop defending itself. Emotional rest. Sensory rest. Social rest. Even spiritual rest. And sometimes, that rest looks like doing absolutely nothing. You're not failing when you pause. You're healing. And if you're wondering how you're supposed to rest, with a life full of responsibilities, trust me, you're not alone. But don't worry, we're going to talk about that too. Step by step. With no shame and no perfection required. For now, just take one deep breath. Feel your jaw unclench. Let that next exhale take a little longer than usual. You're doing better than you think. You wake up and already feel behind. Even if it's your day off, even if nothing's technically urgent, your brain spins into motion like a machine that forgot how to shut down. You scroll, you sip coffee, you start making mental lists before you've even made your bed. Because somewhere along the way, rest got tangled up with guilt, and productivity became the measure of your worth. You probably don't even remember the exact moment that happened. Maybe it was the teacher who praised your extra credit over your curiosity. Maybe it was that coworker who bragged about pulling all-nighters while you were still trying to figure out what a healthy routine even looked like. Or maybe it's just the endless feeds, the algorithms that keep serving you images of people getting after it while you're just trying to find the energy to brush your teeth on time. It's wild how deeply this hustle mindset seeps in. Like some sneaky little app running in the background, constantly reminding you, you should be doing more. And the kicker? You probably believe it's helping you. It's not. In fact, this constant drive to always be productive often does the exact opposite. It backfires. Hard. When you push without pause, your creativity dries up. Your memory slips. You become more reactive, less focused. Ironically, your output shrinks. Like a sponge that's been wrung out too many times without being soaked. There's a name for this mental state, cognitive fatigue. It's when your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles decision-making, problem-solving, and self-control, starts to short-circuit. And guess what fuels cognitive fatigue? Chronic stress. Overstimulation. Constant multitasking. In other words, productivity culture. Now, here's the weird part. You know it's not sustainable. You feel it. That heaviness in your chest when you sit down to rest, but can't enjoy it. That low-key resentment when your schedule's packed with stuff you said yes to but didn't actually want. That constant itch to be doing something, even when you're exhausted. But still, you resist slowing down. Because somewhere in your mind, you've tied productivity to identity. You're the reliable one, the go-getter, the never-stop person. And if you rest, who are you then? That's the trap. And it's one that a lot of people fall into, especially those who genuinely care. The helpers. The hustlers. The ones who just want to make the most out of life. But if you've been taught to only value output, then downtime starts to feel dangerous. Like a threat to who you think you are. Experts still argue whether this productivity identity is a byproduct of modern capitalism, or a deeper psychological need to feel in control. Some say it's both. What's clear, though, is that it disconnects you from your body, and from the kind of health that actually lasts. Because true health isn't just your weight, or your step count, or how many green smoothies you drink. It's your nervous system's ability to recover. It's your emotional bandwidth. Your sense of balance. And you can't build that if you're constantly chasing. Let's be real for a second, being busy is seductive. It makes you feel important. In demand. Like you matter. But busyness is not the same as progress. Just like noise isn't the same as music. There's something beautifully radical about choosing to pause. About stepping away from the grind and saying, this moment doesn't need to be optimized. In fact, some of the most powerful breakthroughs, personally, creatively, emotionally, don't come during the grind. They show up in the quiet. When your mind has enough space to wander. When your body finally stops bracing. Ever notice how your best ideas don't come when you're staring at your laptop, but when you're in the shower? Or on a walk? Or lying in bed, half asleep? That's not an accident. That's your brain functioning in default mode, a neurological resting state linked to self-reflection and long-term planning. It's like your inner compass finally gets a chance to speak, once the noise dies down. Now, let's bring it back to you. If you've ever felt guilty for taking a nap. If you've ever needed a day off but forced yourself through anyway. If you've ever said yes when you meant no just to keep up. Then here's your reminder, you are not a machine. And your worth isn't measured in bullet points. There's a fringe little practice in Iceland that might surprise you. It's called Edda Reddest. Loosely translated, it means, it'll all work out in the end. It's not about laziness, it's about trusting the rhythm of life, instead of constantly wrestling it into submission. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not saying give up. Or stop showing up for your goals. This isn't about apathy. It's about alignment. It's about knowing when to push, and when to pull back. When to speak up, and when to be still. When to act with intention, and when to let life breathe for a moment without your interference. So tonight, maybe give yourself permission to not finish the list. To leave one dish in the sink. To rest not because you've finished everything, but because you've decided that you are enough, just as you are. You can be a dreamer and still rest. You can be ambitious and still nap. You can be building something beautiful and still press pause. And ironically, when you stop trying to prove your worth every second, you start to move from a place of wholeness, not depletion. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You don't need a 5-day vacation in the mountains to feel rested, though let's be honest, that does sound nice. But in reality, you need something much more doable. Much more sustainable. Tiny breaks. The kind that feel almost too small to matter. Almost forgettable. But don't let their size fool you, because micro breaks, when used intentionally, can do more for your brain than another double shot of espresso. Picture this, you're working, or cleaning, or doom scrolling your way into a headache. And then, you pause. You look away from your screen. You breathe on purpose. You stretch your arms above your head like a sleepy cat. You walk to the window and stare at a tree for exactly 60 seconds. Doesn't sound revolutionary, right? But that tiny act just rebooted your attention span. According to recent studies, even 30-second breaks, if they're mindful, can refresh your focus and prevent cognitive fatigue. One researcher compared the brain to a windshield in light rain. Wipe it once and suddenly, everything becomes clearer. And just like that, you're more alert, more grounded, a little less irritable. Experts still argue whether there's a perfect break-to-work ratio, Some swear by 52 minutes on, 17 minutes off. Others say the Pomodoro method is king. But the takeaway remains the same: your brain isn't wired for nonstop output. It's wired for rhythm, cycles, expansion and contraction. You need ebb and flow. But in your world, breaks often feel forbidden. Like you need to justify them, earn them, or worse, sneak them. How often do you glance around guiltily before stepping away from your desk? Or pretend to still be on while quietly resenting every second? Let's change that. Let's normalize micro-rest as a real, valid, powerful part of your day. Try a non-tasking minute. That's not a typo. It means doing nothing, not scrolling, not planning, not even meditating. Just existing. 1 minute, once an hour. Look out a window. Hold a warm mug. Listen to ambient noise. Let your eyes rest and your breath slow. It might feel pointless at first. You'll want to reach for something, your phone, your thoughts, a task. That's okay. Let the urge pass. Trust the pause. Because here's what you're really doing: you're teaching your body that rest doesn't require collapse. That you don't need to hit a wall to deserve a break. That you can step away before burnout, not after it. Now let's talk about movement, because, weirdly, movement can be a form of rest too. Not the high-intensity, sweat until you drop kind. I'm talking about gentle, sensory-soothing movement. The kind that resets your brain and releases tension stored in your body. Think stretching, swaying, pacing slowly while listening to rain sounds. Walking in loops around your home like a calm little ghost. There's an old practice in certain indigenous cultures called medicine walks. No destination. No goal. You just walk in silence, noticing everything. The way the wind moves a branch. The rhythm of your footsteps. How your body feels. It's not exercise, it's awareness in motion. And it's incredibly restorative. You don't have to hike a forest to do this. Your hallway works fine. So does your balcony. Or your kitchen while waiting for tea to steep. The key is presence. It's what separates a break from just another distraction. Want something even more low effort? Try box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. Repeat. It signals to your nervous system that you're safe. That there's no threat here. That you can return to center. You can literally feel your shoulders soften. Your jaw unclench. Your brain shift out of go-go-go mode. It's a tiny reset, but like we said, tiny doesn't mean weak. Now let's talk about your environment. Ever notice how your space affects your energy? Clutter everywhere, harsh lighting, background noise, it all adds up. Your surroundings might be silently stressing you out. So do this: design a rest corner. It doesn't have to be fancy. A chair by a window. A folded blanket. A candle you only light when you're off duty. A place that reminds your brain, this is where we slow down. Even if you live in a tiny apartment, you can carve out a rest space. Think of it as a psychological cue. Your brain loves cues. It's how habits form. So make resting easier by giving it a home. You don't need hours. You need consistency. Remember when we talked about how you're not a machine? Here's another truth: you're also not a robot who can power down instantly. You need wind-down transitions. Soft landings. That's what microbreaks are. They're not luxury. They're lubrication. They keep the wheels turning without grinding you down. And if all of this feels too simple to be helpful, good. That means it's actually doable. Implementable. You're not waiting for the perfect weekend or that mythical, less busy phase of life. You're building a rhythm, one gentle moment at a time. So here's your gentle challenge for tomorrow. Every hour or so, take 60 seconds to do nothing. Or breathe. Or stare at something beautiful. Bonus points if it makes you smile. Because you're not lazy. You're recalibrating. You're not procrastinating. You're preserving your spark. You're not wasting time. You're making space for better energy, clearer thoughts, and habits that actually last. And those little breaks. They're not a detour. They're the path. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that doing something always had to look impressive. Like running a marathon. Starting a business. Meal prepping a week's worth of food in perfect glass containers while listening to a productivity podcast at 1.5x speed. You've been conditioned to think that if it's not big, visible, and shareable, it doesn't count. But here's the truth, the smallest wins are often the ones that matter most. And not everything worth celebrating makes noise. Take a moment. Look at today. Did you set a boundary? Did you get out of bed even though you didn't want to? Did you put your phone down when your brain screamed for more scrolling? Those are wins. Those are huge wins. But they're quiet. So they often get dismissed. You don't get a medal for drinking water when you're supposed to, or for choosing a calm playlist instead of caffeine. No one throws a party because you chose to rest instead of spiral. But that doesn't make it less meaningful. Those quiet choices. That's where transformation hides. Think about how many times you've told yourself, I didn't do anything today. But if you looked closer, really looked, you probably showed up in tiny, steady, powerful ways. You regulated your emotions. You paused before reacting. You tended to your mental health. You resisted the urge to self-sabotage. That's something. And the beautiful part? Once you start noticing those micro-victories, they stack. They shift your self-image from I can't stay consistent to I'm already doing better than I thought. There's a phrase used in Japanese wellness culture, kaizen, continuous improvement through small, consistent action. Not drastic overhauls. Not perfection. Just better, one breath at a time. So let's redefine what it means to be productive. What if that word didn't mean hustle or output but alignment? What if making your bed counts, but so does sitting on it in silence when you need to regroup? What if skipping the gym for a long shower and slow dinner isn't failure but flexibility? Experts still debate whether modern productivity metrics truly measure well-being or just reinforce burnout. Some researchers argue that tracking hours worked or tasks completed only captures part of the story. What's missing? Emotional energy. Decision fatigue. Inner resistance. The invisible things. And when you tune into those invisible things, you start to see how rest is action. Stillness is strategy. And the space between doing and being is where your real power lives. Take your phone, for example. You might think of not scrolling as simply doing less. But it's more than that, it's a conscious choice to reclaim your attention. That's not passive. That's active rest. And it's hard. Anyone who's tried to break a phone habit knows it's not about willpower, it's about awareness. You're not lazy when you pause. You're actually practicing emotional intelligence. The kind of deep self-regulation that most people avoid because it feels uncomfortable. Vulnerable. And yet, this is where the shift happens. Let's bring it back to the everyday. Maybe today your version of productivity looks like turning off notifications. Or choosing to eat slowly, without multitasking. Or stepping outside just to feel the weather, not for steps or stats, but for you. Maybe it's letting yourself cry, even though you don't know why. Maybe it's saying no to a plan that drains you. Maybe it's saying yes to one that doesn't make sense, but feels right in your gut. You don't have to earn your existence through constant action. You already deserve peace. Right now. As you are. And hey, if no one told you this yet today. Brushing your teeth is self-care. Putting your phone on silent is self-respect. Washing a dish is an act of mindfulness. Turning down the volume on your day is productivity in its gentlest form. Because this idea that your value is tied to visible effort. That's just noise. And you don't need more noise. You need truth. You need rhythm. You need grace. You're allowed to shift your identity, from overachiever to mindful achiever. From all or nothing to enough as I am. That doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means you build dreams that your nervous system can actually sustain. So tonight, maybe reframe it. Instead of saying, I didn't get enough done. Say, I honored my limits today. Instead of asking, why am I so unmotivated? Ask, what part of me is asking for gentleness? You'll be amazed how that subtle language shift changes everything. Because in the quiet, in the small, in the moments no one sees, that's where you become the kind of person you've been chasing. And not because you did everything perfectly. But because you paused long enough to listen. To trust. To choose again. And honestly, that might be the most productive thing you do all week.